high school, you'll have to take a class called geometry. You just get little bits and pieces of it now. Basically, it has to deal with shapes. But it gets a lot more complicated than that. But today we're just looking at a few things here. When we name shapes, let's say I've got this triangle. And I've got this triangle. This will be kind of easy. Because you sometimes need to tell people what you're talking about or what shapes you're talking about, we name triangles. And the way we name, well, we name any shape. The way we name shapes is by putting letters at their vertices, at the place where two sides come together across there. And if you're writing this on your paper, rather than writing out triangle ABC when you're talking about this, we do like to make life a little simpler than that. Rather than writing out the word triangle, you can just use the shape triangle, draw a little triangle in front of your letters, and that tells someone who's reading it that you're talking about triangle ABC. Same thing here. If we were labeling this, we would call it triangle CBE. And it doesn't matter what letter you actually start with, but you do want to go in some sort of order, like A to B to C, there. And it doesn't matter with triangle, because there's no, in a triangle you can't really get the letters out of order. But if you were talking about a rectangle, let's say I had this rectangle that looked like this, and I call this rectangle W, X, Y, Z. Okay, if I were telling somebody I was talking about this rectangle, I draw my little rectangle, and it wouldn't matter what letter I start with. Let's say I started with Y, okay, but I have to go in order from there around the rectangle. You can go clockwise or counterclockwise, it's kind of confusing, but I would label this Y, Z, W, X. That would be how I would tell somebody I'm talking about this. You could not say rectangle Y, W, X, Z, because that does not go in order. You need to list them in kind of a circular order kind of fashion. I didn't make the rules, I just have to play the game. Okay? Now the same thing is true for when we talk about, remember back in the day we talked about line segments, rays, segment, rays, and lines. Let me put some letters here. A, B, A, B, and A, B. If I am talking about a segment, let's say I've got this. First of all, is this a line or a segment?
Segment. Line. Segment.
Give you a chance to think about that. The answer to that is
Segment. It's a segment.
the answer to that question is, believe it or not, yes, it is both a line and a segment. That is why, okay, if you are just talking about the segment part of it, if you are just talking about this part right here, when you label that on your paper, you have to do this. Well, sorry, you don't have to put, sorry, I don't know. Okay, if I want to tell somebody that I'm talking about just this piece of that line, which is a segment, you would write the letters A, B, and you would put a segment above it. Okay, that tells somebody you mean just this piece from here to here. If children, take a look at this. If you're talking about a line and you want to talk about the whole thing, when you write your letter A-B, guess what you have to put above it? A line. Okay, notice the difference? If it has arrows, it's a line, and it means you include everything that goes on forever. If you want just the segment, you have to just put the segment above it. You have to be careful about that. And then if it's array, you do just like we did right up there. You have to make it array symbol above it. This says, you say this as array AB. And notice the starting point has to be the first letter. I could not label this array BA because this is not array starting from B going to A. It has to go from A to B. And it keeps going on forever that direction. So it can be a little confusing, but it's really not that bad. Oh, now finally to the great part here. Write down this problem. We talked about this before. Let's say you've got this line that's cut into segments P, Q, and R. P, Q, and R. And the book tells you this problem. The length of segment PQ, the length of segment PQ. Now notice they didn't have to put a little thing above that because they told you it's a segment. Is 3 centimeters. Is 3 centimeters. The length of segment PR is 8 centimeters. The length of segment PR is 8 centimeters. What is the length of segment QR? How long is Q? Oops, sorry. Well, I'll write it here. How long is segment QR? I'll just write it like that because we can't. Give you a second to write that down. Everybody got it? I'll shorten this up a little bit. If you have a problem like this in the book, maybe you can guess what the teacher's going to tell you to do, because there's a common theme that runs through most of these math things. Sammy, what would it be? Well, yeah, you'll look in your notes, but before you look in your notes, you might not have to look in your notes. Frankie, you are going to have to, if this appears in the book, you are going to have to draw. Let me change colors so you know. You are going to have to draw this thing here and label. Children, watch. You can ooh and ah later. Nice, as I said later, remember. You will need to do all of this. Label it. This is P, this is Q, this is R. And then write down the info that they gave you. They said PQ is 3 centimeters. So that means you are going to have to put on your paper, PQ is 3 centimeters. PR, which goes all the way from P all the way to R, is 8 centimeters. We want to know how long this little piece is here. In which case, there's that little thing that says the whole is made up of pieces of the parts or whatever. This is a 8 minus 3 equals how many centimeters would that be? And if, this is 5, right? If doing these little braces things is not your thing, you certainly can just do this. Make the little shape. Make the lines like this and say this is 8 centimeters. This from here to here is 3 centimeters. And how far is it from here to here? But I need to see this. Is that relatively clear to most people? Let me see if we have another example of that. I do need to open to page 390 though. You are now officially more than halfway through your math book. How about that? You might want to put that on your calendar somewhere. You don't have to write this in your notes, but I'm going to put it up here. What do we got? A, B, C, M, D. A, B, C, D, M. You will see there in the practice part of that, it gives you a shape that looks like that. Correct. Correct. Look at letter F on that lesson practice. It says angle AMD is an obtuse angle. So that means this. They're telling you this. AMD, this big angle is obtuse. What does that mean? No, angle's obtuse. It is, Nathan?
More than 90 degrees.
More than 90 degrees. Using 3 letters, what is another way to name this angle? Now notice the book called it angle AMD. What is another way to say that same angle? Jordan? We called it, the book called it AMD. One other way you can name that angle is angle. Here's the deal. The M has to stay in the middle. The vertex has to be in the middle. But you could switch around the D and the A. You could be DMA. Those are the exact same angle. DMA is the same as AMD. Mine isn't quite as obtuse as I'd like it. How about letter G? What angle appears to be a right angle? Oh, mine. I didn't draw mine like theirs. B should have been straight up and down, shouldn't it have been? Maybe I can fix this. Like, do the magic on the board. Don't give up on it. Wait. How about that, huh? Move the tip over here. A over here. There. Oh. Put the dot over there. Oh. Put the dot over there. What is that? Wait, I'm going to move B. Check out B.
We have to move the other.
Okay, B doesn't move. What did I just
Try
do?
the other ones. Oh, wow, that was good.
There. Let's try to keep it like that. What angle then appears to be a right angle? And you got a label there. Jacob?
BMD.
Angle BMD. Or you could call it DMD. Either way is fine. And the last question, which ray appears to be perpendicular to MD? So notice they told you it's MD, so here is MD. And it's a ray because rays have starting points, but they don't end. What ray is perpendicular to this ray? Frankie?
MD.
Yep. And again, you would, how would you label that? You can't just put MD, you'd have to say M, no, it's not a segment, it said ray MD. Ray MD. Takes a little bit of prowess there. Perfect, all right, for tomorrow. Lesson 61, children, 61.